Paris 24 Outreach 30 Short Stories in 30 Days with Beyond the Rings. My name's Jeff. I have the great privilege of being the founder of Beyond the Rings, being an Olympic evangelist for over 20 years and 11 Olympics now. I've officially gotten past 10. I was stuck at 10 a long time. And this summer, we launched Beyond the Rings, and with these wonderful two MBU Shine On students, Destiny Killian and Brandon Long. Yes, I'm going to use that tagline every time. It's fun. And I'm in Moab grad as well. So um, Destiny Killian, Brandon Long, MBU students studying worship and Christian ministries and apologetics. And they were great team members to be part of the BTR ground team. And Brandon, share another story with us.
In my last story, I talked about how we were trying to find the park that Jeff was so stubborn about.
Obsessed. Obsessed is the word we're going with.
He was so obsessed about, and this story was after that. So we were on the way back from trying to find your, and we were riding the metro back, and we got off at our stop, and we ran into this family of four. Not literally ran into, but we met this family of four, who were from Ohio.
Yep.
And we're walking and talking, and we get to the elevator, and by that time we're already getting ready to transition to the gospel. And Jeff had mainly been talking to him. It was either you or Tony, I don't remember. But you're like, yeah, and Brandon will tell you about it. And so you handed me a pin, and next thing I know, I'm sharing the gospel with a family of four from Ohio, in a Paris metro station. And the elevator opened, and they're like, "We'll miss the elevator. We're fine. We won't do this in the elevator. Do it right here." And I'm like, "Okay, fine. We're doing this." And
the mom was thrilled. Yes.
she was ecstatic.
Yep.
But it was Tammy, Erica, Joe, and I'm forgetting the answer. I have it written down. Give me 1 second.
Yep.
It was Tammy, Joe, Madison, and Erica. Erica was actually Aunt Madison was the daughter, and then Tammy and Joe were mom and dad. And we're sharing with them, and they were very receptive. They were Christians. They're very supportive, very energetic, very keep doing what you're doing. You got this, kind of people. And we asked if we could pray for them and with them, and we were expecting us to pray for them, and it turned out that Tammy, the mom, ended up praying for us.
She didn't pray for us. She prayed enthusiastically for us.
It was very enthusiastic.
And no care about the volume or who was around us. She was going to pray.
No, she did not care where we were. She didn't care what we were doing. She just knew, I'm praying for these people right now.
Yeah.
I'm praying for the mission that they're on, and that they can reach other people who aren't believers. And so that was a very fun encounter, not only because of that, but because it was also my first big encounter, but it was also my first solo encounter.
Yeah. Well, like you said, we were all there, but you were the mouthpiece.
Yeah.
You were the one sharing the gospel.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously we did not know what to expect.
No.
And it's those kind of situations that I find incredibly affirming and encouraging. What did you think kind of walking away from that? It was almost surreal, wasn't it?
It was. And so I'm there. I'm just there, right?
Soaking it up, right?
Up until that point, I was learning how to navigate the metro, because we knew Tony was only there for a while, and he was our metro maestro.
And you were our MIT.
And I was the maestro in training.
That's right.
And it was, so I was trying to learn from Tony about like how to get where we were going and how to use my different navigation apps that
with Tony and Brandon, both of them deserve incredible credit, because it was not an easy system to figure out. And you kept getting information differently, because they had a wonderful app for it, as long as you had a good signal.
Yes.
And it was refreshing, and a lot of times it didn't. And so you were doing a great job.
Yeah. And so I remember there was one time you got mad at me because I missed the entry.
Yeah.
A lot of them had like escalator out, stairs in, and I saw the escalator, so I'm like, oh, that's the exit. Turns out the stairs in were right next to the escalator.
Yeah.
And so
That was that grumpy Jeff. I don't
that
know.
was
We left
yeah
him in Paris.
yeah Jeff the Jerk as I call him.
Yes,
Um, and
I resemble that remark.
That was because he was hangry. That was
I was
he,
hangry, and
yeah.
it
it
was
was the end of
late.
the day. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Um, but anyway, back to the story. We're in the metro station. We're almost back, and like we have to walk out of the metro station, and walk to the hotel. Like we
Right.
are that close, and here comes this family, and we share the gospel. I'm praying for you. I don't care who hears me. Like I want this whole metro station to hear me almost.
Yeah, yeah. It
And
was a great way to end the day.
it
Wasn't
was. It
Yeah.
really was because
Yeah.
it got us pumped up. We were all still hangry, but it got us pumped and ready to go for the next day.
Yeah, yeah, and it helps to end on a positive note, and that was one of the most positive. And like I said, that was kind of early on. I mean, yes, we knew Tony was leaving soon, but it was still, it was uh, it was a much needed encouragement
Yeah.
and from God for sure.
Mhm.
Destiny, what were you doing? Were you taking pictures? Were you standing right next to him? What were you doing? I don't remember.
There's again. Funny thing is right before that happened, his dad texted me, "Has Brandon shared yet?" And so I found that opportunity to send him the picture.
That's funny. That's good. Yeah,
Yeah.
timing is everything, isn't it?
Well,
Yep.
so I didn't even know that, but apparently my dad texted her and goes, "Has Brendan shared yet?" Like she just said, and then next thing I know, I'm checking my phone as we're walking back to the hotel after we got out of the metro station. He posted them immediately.
Yeah.
He posted the pictures as soon as he got them.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. Well,
So
because it was again, it's one of those things where, okay, going over there, would you have believed if I had said, look, here's one of the things that's going to happen. We're going to go to share with this group of people. We don't know how they're going to receive us. Not only are they going to be open to it, they're going to be excited for us, and they're going to pray for us loudly and boldly right there in the subway station at where it'd be like, you're nuts. What are you talking about? Nobody does that. But that's exactly what happened, right?
yeah.
And see, it's those kind of encounters that keep me going because I'm like, you know what?
Mhm.
You just don't know.
Yeah.
Don't know what you're going to experience that day. And, I'll use this just to ask this question. What was the worst response you got in Paris?
The worst response I got, we were at a mall. It was a pretty fancy mall. So they thought we were journalists because we all had the name tags that said Beyond the Rings with our faces and names, and Jeff was wearing his signature hat, and so but yeah, they thought we were journalists, and I'm like, no, we're not journalists, we're just here. And we went up to the roof because it was a terrace the Eiffel Tower, and they had a glass wall, which was kind of scary,
It was
but
creepy.
that is what it is. And turns out me and Tony were paired up that day because you had taken Destiny.
My favorite.
Yes, your favorite. And we go up to this couple. The guy, I didn't get their names, but had a USA Rugby shirt on.
I remember you telling me about this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and Tony played rugby
Right.
in college.
Yeah.
Right? Did he play college rugby, or did he just play it until
No, I'm
college?
pretty sure it was college. Yeah.
Okay, so he played college rugby, and so that was his in. Was the rugby shirt, and we were like, "Hey, yeah, we're giving out these pins. It only takes a couple minutes." And they're like, "No, we don't have time," and just walked away from us. So I think that was that, or a lot of my encounters were "Go USA," and they just kept walking.
Well, the reason I ask, what about your Destiny? What about yours, Destiny? What was your worst encounter that you feel like you had?
Um, not sure. It was probably there were people that were like
Right.
they weren't really blunt to my face about it, but you could tell that
Yeah.
they didn't really
Yeah.
care.
But that's my point. I mean, even when you got asked to leave an area, it was still okay. We'll leave. I mean, nobody threatened you. Nobody spit in your face. Nobody, chased you
We
down.
didn't get a personal security escort.
Well,
No.
no, you
Friends
did get
did,
asked.
but no.
You did get asked by security specifically to.
Volunteer.
Oh, was it a
It was
volunteer?
a
It was a
volunteer.
volunteer.
Okay, okay. No, we have friends who were there with a different ministry, international sports chaplains, who I've partnered with in the previous games, who had personal security escort them out of an area, and they weren't being any more engaging than we were. They were just on their radar, and didn't let them have time to just make their way out of the park. It was kind of rude. But I just asked that because I think a lot of people, I think a lot of our fear in sharing the gospel and having gospel conversations is, well, what if they? Well, I'm afraid they might. Well, what? And most of the time, that's just the enemy causing us to live in fear
Mhm.
instead of faith. That what's the worst thing that can happen? Say, no, I don't like it. Stop talking to me, or
Yeah.
just walk away. Okay, I don't want any of that to happen, but I'll survive.
Yeah, and there were times where I was like, I don't know if they want me to talk to them. And then Destiny here started pushing me at people. Like she's like, oh, go talk to him. And here you're just like physically shoving me towards people.
She had a good mentor. Yeah,
I'm just saying, it encouraged you.
that's right.
It definitely did. And it encouraged me to go that way.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and sometimes we need that though. I mean, like you experience and needing a bit of a push. Sometimes we need that.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's how we can use that opportunity, that moment to make that transition.
Mhm.
And again, you guys, I told your parents and your grandma and I'll tell your parents the same thing. I mean, how much you guys grew and just blossomed through the whole thing.
Mhm.
And that's what I tried to assure you. And that's one of the things that we learned. I know I learned that we need to do a better job with training before the next one so that there's, okay, we've talked about it, but we need to kind of train for it too. We need to do both and. But you guys just rose to the occasion and did just fantastic. So I'm so glad you guys were there at all and that you committed to being there with me the distance because, like I told you guys, if you weren't there, I couldn't have been there.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, even if I could have been there, it would have been really less impactful.
And I remember when when you first brought up Beyond the Rings, oh, I'm doing this in Italy, or this could be a good like post graduation trip for you, LA in
Right,
28.
right.
You didn't really bring up Paris, and I'm like, what about 2024 Olympic? Well, I'll be there, and I'm like, well, if I'm going, I'm flying in with you, and I'm flying out with you.
Yes.
And
yeah.
we did not do
How
that.
about say, how'd that work out for you?
We flew in and out on the same days.
That's it. That's about as good.
that's how
Because
that
you
worked.
both you got there before I did, and you left after I did.
We did, yeah.
So
We were
congratulations.
first to get there, last to leave.
Yes,
Yes,
yes.
we did.
And that was the only time I had any hesitation about the whole trip with you guys was because your parents are kind of like, hey, take good care of my kids. I'm like, okay. Because your mom gave me the biggest bear hug after I got that first Sunday when I saw her. And she's like, you brought him home. And I'm like, well, I debate it. But my biggest concern is when I was flying out, I'm like, what happens if their flights get delayed? Now, again, you guys had matured. I knew you would be capable, but at the same time, I didn't want you to have to navigate that alone.
Yeah.
You guys, you did fantastic.
I mean, we went to what, 3 different baggage checks?
Hey, I
to
heard
get our luggage.
That scared me.
I heard
our
you had a
bags checked.
bullseye on you coming back. That's what I heard.
That was funny.
Yeah, tell us about that, Destiny.
Okay,
Kind of a bonus short story, real quick, as we wrap up this one.
Okay, so we went through so many security points before the fact when we got there.
Oh.
Okay, so then we get to Paris. We just were like, okay, this is gonna be the same. They're gonna pull our bags away and ask what happened, and then look through it.
Right.
Well, that didn't exactly happen. I didn't have many pens on me. I had my pen bag, and so it had like 25. I don't know. It was a light load that day.
Right.
And so
Whereas Brandon, on the other hand,
yes,
I had a carry-on suitcase that had 4 or 5 bags of pins in it, plus our quote-unquote pin hospitals,
which
that
were the
had-
pins that got broken and
which
he collected and
were
brought home.
which were probably 25 to 50 in each.
Oh,
it was at least
several hundred.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so I had those in my bag. Plus, I had about 25 in my pin bag that was stuffed in my backpack.
Right.
And when we were in Paris, all right, go ahead.
he
Go ahead.
likes to interrupt me all the time.
I don't mean to. It just
Anyway, so I would say he had about like 300 plus maybe at that.
at least.
Well, anyway, I have this theory is he goes first so that I know what I'm expecting.
Sacrificial lamb, something like
Yeah.
that.
yeah.
And I did.
That.
Okay, so then we get to Paris, and then they were kind of rude about it. They didn't really.
They just pulled everything out of my backpack.
Yeah, they pulled
Everything.
everything.
And then expected me to go somewhere else and stuff it back. And I'm like, no, you did this. I'm using your table.
Yes.
And he was not
Luckily-
happy.
Yeah, luckily we had enough layover, and we got there since you had to leave early. We were there plenty of time to
Yeah.
repack.
Extra,
Yeah.
extra,
Well,
extra early.
So then we landed to Minnesota.
Minneapolis.
So
Right.
and we were checking bags in again
Mhm.
and going through security once again. Again, we were just prepared to be pulled aside. Well, my bag didn't get pulled. My pen bag, they're like, here you go. I was like,
Yeah, the one
okay.
time your bag doesn't get pulled.
Yes, the one time. Well, his does. And not only did they unload his suitcase, they ripped every bag of pens open.
And
I did not know. Are you serious? I didn't know that.
They ripped open every single bag
single.
and dumped them all into one tray and told me, "Oh, there's another table where you can go put them back."
Yes.
I didn't realize you. I knew you'd gone through it in Paris. I didn't realize you went through it
That's-
again in
That's the-
Minneapolis.
That's the photo I sent you.
That's the picture.
That's the picture.
Yes.
Wow.
So
All open.
yeah,
And
Man.
they ripped they dumped
just
out both the hospital bags.
Yeah.
They ripped open all 5 bags that were in my suitcase and dumped them out. And I got to the point, I texted my mom, I'm like, I'm done with
Wow.
TSA. And so we get to the other table, and Destiny didn't get pulled this time. So she didn't have to wait for me to get done.
Right.
And we're at the table, and she's just like, what do you want me to do? I said, I don't care. Just get them back in my
so
bag.
they just
Yep.
got dumped into his.
They got dumped back
area.
into my suitcase.
Wow.
Oh, but
That's
yeah.
brutal.
no,
Yeah. You had troublemaker all over you coming back.
I
Yeah,
did.
Yeah. All right. Well, we've gone a little long on this short story, but I'm glad we added that little tidbit of traveling entertainment. Yeah.
It was something.
Well, thanks again for tuning in for today's episode of Paris 24, 30 and 30 with Beyond the Rings. Again, my name's Jeff. This is Brandon. This is Destiny. We want to invite you to come join us for our Paris 24 Outreach celebration coming up on September 29th, 3 p.m. Concord Church on Tesson Ferry in St. Louis County, South St. Louis County. We're working on live streaming it. We'll get that information out as soon as we can. We'll have pictures, videos, pins, stories, and we will we'll have desserts, which is really cool. And one of the ladies from our church is working on some pretty cool dessert plans for us and drinks, all free. But we will be taking love offering that night as we kick off the Italy 2026 Winter Outreach. So come join us or join us online. Until next time, thanks much. All right.
Oh, we reached out to Dr. Ross and Andy.
Oh yeah, good.
He emailed both of them.
Good.
She carbon copied me.
I love how it's Dr. Ross and Andy, not Dr. Ross and Dr. Chambers.
Well, you know
But
it,
anyway,
Andy,
I do know
so
Andy. I walk by his house every
That's
morning.
why it's Andy.
Okay.
But Dr. Ross didn't answer. Chambers did.
Good.
And he told us that it would be up to the discretion of our professors.
Okay.
My professors are not gonna care. One of my professors has been bragging about me going to the Olympics.
Good.
That
That's
is my chorale teacher.
And
Yeah.
But
when I went to the church conference with Neil back in September, the only professor that told me it was an excused absence was my world lit professor.
Interesting.
But like my New Testament professor, my
Right.
Internations for Christian Ministry,
Yeah.
all of my other professors were like, "Yep, sure, go ahead."
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah,
I'm optimistic. We'll be fine. But I'm glad you guys have started
Yeah.
that conversation. That's good. All right. We're going back to you this time.
yeah, I think so.
And you ready?
wait, my turn.
Is
Oh, it is your turn,
Dude,
That
why
was
do I keep
that's because we keep going off on tangents. That was my
who keeps going on Jeff and Titch?
that was my Tammy story. That was
You
my
know what?
family
Here's the funny-
family of 4 from Ohio.
Okay,
In the metro
okay.
station.
Okay, well, wait. And the funny,
What?
you're all
Me?
over the place because you're
My dates are
okay.
off.
Not that. It's not just because who cares. It's the fact that we met Tammy because we really didn't want to walk up steps.
That is
We wanted- we
true.
Is
found-
that our first elevator ride?
Yeah.
Yes. Yep. And we were like, elevator from now on. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep,
we went
absolutely.
elevator down and up from
Yes,
now on.
absolutely. It was all for Tony. And then
It
in honor of
was.
Tony.
Exactly. Tony Stairs.
All right, Destiny, you're up next. You ready?
Yeah.
3, 2, 1. Welcome back to Paris 24 Outreach 30 and 30. 30 short stories in 30 days. My name is Jeff Wells. I'm founder of Beyond the Rings Olympic Penetrating Evangelism Ministry. Having been a part of another ministry in the past, International Sports Chaplains, for 10 previous Olympics. Paris 24 was the launch of Beyond the Rings, and I had the privilege of having Destiny Killian and Brandon Long from Missouri Baptist University
Shine on.
join me as part of the ground team, and they were with me the distance, and they're willing to be seen with me in public. Although it did take Destiny about 2 to be seen with me again, but here we are.
Excuse me? I'm sorry. I was just busy promoting you
Yeah,
in
what-
other aspects.
You're promoting the ministry. Yes, yeah. All right.
You
What's that?
and you.
And me.
You are
yeah.
the ministry.
Well, no, not anymore. You guys are too. You're now veterans in Olympic pin trading
We are.
evangelism. So congratulations.
Weird to say.
Right?
It's weird.
Well, especially when you tell people this, they're like, "You did what?"
Yep.
And it's amazing. Christine, real quick, it's your story today, but Christine came home last week and she's like, our pharmacist, we go to a Walgreens, so it's not like a tiny neighborhood pharmacy, right? But he's always been good about knowing our names and stuff. And when he saw the first news story on Channel 5, he asked Christine about me. And from that, I've been able to have incredible conversations with him and his whole team. And he's not always there because they work in big shifts. So last week she was there picking up some medicine. She's like, so Slava was asking about you again, and and he really loved the pens and all this. And so it's just really neat to see how using that notoriety matters, and people when they hear about it, like as you guys experience, when people would say, "Well, how many Olympics you been at?" and you'd be like, "Well, this is our first," and you were almost like, "But it's this 11th," and like, what? And I only met 2 other people who had been there to more Olympics than me, 13 and 18. And come to find out, one of them was a strong believer, and the other one's going to be our future pin producer, I believe. So, Destiny, tell us your story today for 30 for 30.
Today's story happened August 1st.
You guys are
Okay.
good about dates and details, by the way, and the
She
names.
is.
I love
Thank
that.
you.
That is so good.
She is.
It is. It's good. Yeah.
Well, anyway, that was another day we were trying to get into that park you were obsessed with.
The park.
The park.
The
We
park.
found before we walked the whole entire thing, we found a new location. It's okay because throughout trying to be obsessed with this park, we found some cool destinations.
We did.
So if
In and around the
Yeah.
Eiffel Tower. Yeah.
but this one happened sort of in a back park. It
Mhm.
wasn't really a major, most beautiful park. It was.
It was an odd little setup, wasn't it?
was.
I mean, it had a few benches, and it was like a wide path, almost a
Yes.
road, but
Yeah.
not.
And then you could get down to the river.
Yeah.
But then it was just pretty much a dead end.
Right. And just like apartments on the other side.
Yeah.
It was an odd
Yeah.
But
odd
it
place.
did have a good picture spot.
It did. Yeah.
did.
Yeah.
So, this day, okay, because we're all human. The whole team was off. It started off very rough. Nobody was into it.
And wasn't that one of the really hot days too? It was really hot that day, I remember.
No, that
Not
was a
this one.
that was a fan zone day.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay.
This one was just we were getting on each other's nerves a little.
Yeah.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Jeff, everybody knows how when you spend
Passionate.
My
Yeah.
Jeff episodes?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
that, I wasn't even gonna talk about that. Once you spend a couple of days with people, you learn them. Especially when, you two were stuck in a hotel room together,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
you two learned a lot about each other.
There's some
Yes.
interesting stories that came
We
from that.
what happens in Paris stays in Paris. No, it was interesting. Yeah, but you're right. We learn more about each other, and
With that, you also get very frustrated with people
Yep.
because the rooms are tiny.
well, and that's just it. We didn't take time apart from each other.
No.
I mean, other than when we went to sleep, but even then, we weren't apart from each other. But there was no hey, I'm gonna go take some me time. No, there was none of that.
Well, that was one because you really couldn't.
Well, me and
because
Destiny went and hung out in the
it
common room.
still wasn't
Other th-
alone time.
No, it
Right.
wasn't.
Right. You never really were. Think about it. For those 20 days, none of us were ever alone.
Well,
Well, you were because of your room situation.
But
okay, it was still loud enough.
You felt like you were in the room.
Yeah.
I guess we just have that talent, huh, Jeff?
But have you heard my voice? Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, we were very rough, and so this day, I don't really know exactly what I was upset about, but I just know stuff. But that day, God was like, "Excuse me, I'm gonna show you I'm gonna show you why you guys are here." And so, for me specifically, I love Lilo and Stitch, specifically Stitch. Okay, and I saw all around this park. It was a teeny tiny park, but I saw them all around it.
It was really it was a popular character,
Mhm.
and it was Stitch specifically that you saw more than
Yes.
Leo. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
And so, I think this was one of the times we were just out. You were sharing. He was in something.
I was being me. I was going for it.
I think you were talking to a David who we also met that
Yeah.
day. Um, and so I saw this little girl who had a Stitch bag. Okay, and so that was my opportunity to go up. Okay, and I did. I also talked to her family alongside of it, and while like I gave them the pin, the whole encounter, the whole story, um, I kind of like after like obviously after I showed her all my Stitch stuff, that's how the conversation started.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what I found really interesting was as soon as I was done, she rushed over to her mom and like she was asking for her mom to give her something. And it was this little piece of paper, like she had tons of them. And she gave it to me and it had John 3:16 on it. And so I know that's a very popular verse, but in that little like moment, it
Yeah,
was like a powerful,
absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And so that one I felt was a very impactful encounter for me.
A definite God moment, right?
Yes.
Yeah, we with the ministry, International Sports Chaplains, my friend and mentor, Dave Gwynn, would call those divine appointments. And again, you think you're ministering to, you think you're sharing with a non believer. And what ends up happening often is you're sharing with a believer.
Mhm.
And so, or somebody who's heard the gospel and hasn't made a decision yet, right? So
Yeah.
you're either planting the seed or you're watering it. But we're also watering the fellowship between believers. And here God used this little girl and a shared interest that you had with Stitch to give you an opportunity to share and then be encouraged by that opportunity.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. You remember that encounter, her talking about
Yeah,
it? Or-
I do. I was right next to her when it happened. I think, or I was right behind you. I was something. I was near. Because like she said, we met a guy named David, who was just street
Was that the
evangelizing.
street preacher? Okay,
Yeah,
I thought
That
that
was
too.
it
one
was
of them.
one of the two. You talked to
Right.
Gary. We talked to David.
Right. David was, yep, yep.
Yes, so David was the younger guy.
Yep, yep. With the long hair, right?
Yes,
Yep. Mhm.
long hair and the beard.
Right.
And so I was talking with him, and next thing I know, she's tapping me on the shoulder because she's bitch,
Right.
and he wants she.
Huh?
Sorry, I know, I
I
know.
didn't experience that at all.
No, not at all. But she's like, I'll be back. Okay, and we knew where each other were, so we weren't.
Yep.
I wasn't worried. I was
Right.
just like, okay.
She's got to lead on something.
I'm like, go for it. And
Yep.
so I finished up with David. He ended up going out and doing his thing. And so I'm like, oh, he's talking to a family.
Mm.
I didn't man. I get a picture.
One did.
Somebody did.
Someone got a
I
picture.
know.
It
I think
wasn't-
I took a picture
I
from the
think you got-
bench,
I think you got it. I didn't get one.
but I think you did. You come up and help supply her
I
with pins
did,
and
I
stuff. That's
did,
what I thought I
yeah.
saw you
And
doing.
so-
yeah,
when I finished with David, I realized she was talking to a family of what, 4 or 5? 5?
it was a group.
I think it was
Yeah.
5. And so she was mainly talking to the little girl, and so she gave the little girl a pin. So I was in the background trying to be as discreet and
How'd that work out for you?
it didn't work out. I'll tell you that right now. I was trying to be as nonchalant as I could be.
Right. Right.
Which I am not good at. I found out. Because every time I'm trying to get pins ready, I'm just like, oh, in my bag, in my bag, in my bag.
Yes.
That was like
Yeah.
attached to my hip, and half the time I had to unlock it because you made us paranoid, or made me paranoid, and then you
You
were
almost got pickpocketed.
you,
Me. Yes.
the paranoid one.
Yeah.
I ended
It kept me from getting pickpocketed. So,
no, we kept you from getting.
well, that is true. That is true. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, that one was not a is lock so that even if you get pickpocketed, it's just a pin, which you're
True.
giving out anyway.
Right. Right.
True.
Not
Yeah.
that you want people to pickpocket you,
Right.
but then it's not as
It's not like a wallet or a
Yeah.
passport.
Well, yeah, and you
Yeah.
you were saying about when you almost got pickpocketed, they were reaching into your gospel pocket.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean,
what they would have taken wouldn't have been of immense value.
right. Right.
But the fact that you were able to catch him and be like, "Hey, no, stop that."
Yeah.
It's just
Well, and we alluded to this in an earlier
Mhm.
podcast, but just the full story was we were out later than usual.
we were
We'd
out later
gone to
'cause
see the cauldron,
yes.
and so we were out later than usual. So the trains were fuller than usual. It was
Yes.
busier. I can now see, even though we weren't out many nights, why Paris is called the City of Lights. I mean, it goes
Oh, it's
all
insane.
right. It's hopping, and so the line that we were on coming back to our hotel, and it wasn't the first line, was it? Was it our line?
I think it was so we rode one line from where we were,
Right,
because we were near the Louvre.
right.
And so
That one wasn't it. That one was way more packed.
It was
yeah,
it was the
second one.
intermediate one, wasn't it? Before we got to our line, yeah.
yes.
And it was very busy, and we were sitting just inside the door. And when these
Mhm.
two girls came on, one of them's like, "Hey, I'm pregnant. Can I have your seat?" And I'm like, "Oh, sure." I go to get up, and the other girl
Sticks your hand in your pocket.
stuck her hand in my right pocket. And the only reason I recognized that feel was because you guys had been sliding me pins and cards
Mhm.
as I was having gospel conference. So you were supplying me. So I was used to that,
Yeah.
to alert to that. That's what was happening. And so the fun of it is I slapped her hand and pushed her away, and she got mad at me for hitting her. I'm like, "Don't go in my pocket," you know? And it became this big deal.
Mhm.
And they ended up, we thought they got off the train at the next, only they had gotten off and gone to the train behind us and gotten off it again.
Yeah.
And we saw them again at the front. So they were definitely working the train then.
They were, and meanwhile, me and Destiny are sitting next to each other, diagonal from where you were, on the opposite side of the train, inside the other across from the door that we were getting on and off of, and we didn't even hear the first girl that was asking for
Really?
her seat.
Yeah.
All we heard was, "Get away from me!"
Yeah, we heard like the after the "Don't touch me," like,
Yeah,
Mhm.
we heard,
Because
"Stay
he
away."
was getting an
Yeah.
attitude
Yeah.
like,
And
don't
then
go in my pocket.
cup
Yeah.
and then she, like, knocked your cup out of
Yep,
your
knocked your
hand.
cup out of your hand,
Yeah,
and
yeah, it
So
was. And what amazed me about that, because again, I'd watched that YouTube channel, La Frenchies, and they did a whole episode about Paris pickpockets. That's where my advice came from. And they described how these girls would wear these
the
fanny
crossbody.
packs.
but they would be loose, and that would allow them to have their hands free, so you couldn't see them. And so as soon as I saw that, I'm like, oh, that's what's happening. They're trying to pickpocket me. So I knew,
Mhm.
instantaneously both those things. But typically they will travel in a pack, and they did. I don't know if you saw the group at the end of the night. There was like
Yeah.
5 or 6 of them, and there was a guy. There's always a bouncer. He was one standing right there by the door, and he didn't do anything because he didn't want to out himself yet.
Yep.
He was like, okay, how far is this going to go? Well, once it died down, he didn't have to reveal himself. But
Yeah.
but it was certainly an interesting experience for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it was just one of those, Paris experiences. But yeah, you did a great job with that. And we were talking about this before the podcast, about how God uses things that are of natural interest to us
Mhm.
to lead us into engaging gospel conversations. That again, you didn't have to make something up.
Mm.
You didn't have to be fake.
Mhm.
You're like, I love Stitch too,
Mhm.
and that was your in, and come to find out it was another family of believers, but it was neat how God does that,
Mhm.
and I love that about what I've discovered at the Olympics is, I love to meet people from all over, but it comes back to something you said before in a previous episode, Brandon, about the whole, people are people. If
Mhm.
you're just authentic with them, that opens up a really neat opportunity for a genuine founder that can lead to the gospel. you
Yeah.
know? And I think if you build that foundation, that even if you get to something if they're uncomfortable about the gospel, kind of won the right to be heard because you've
Mhm.
been authentic and respectful and
Yeah.
genuinely interested in them and whatever they have.
Yeah.
That's why anytime I saw Americans, I would be yelling out, where are you from? And what was my joke? We're practically neighbors.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
You know?
Compared to
Really
compared to
neighbor.
yeah, compared to France, where you travel a few hours and you're in another country,
Yeah.
you travel like 24 hours and you're still in America.
Yeah. Well, and
Yeah.
you talk about my lines, but I don't have to be that creative. Once I get one that works, I just keep using it. And
Yeah, it's 'cause you just do that,
I'm
and you're a one-trick pony is what you are.
I have 2 or 3 tricks, but it's not more than 5.
No.
So
That's because if it's more than 5, then you can't count up to that.
No, he can count up to 10. He has 2 hands.
She's not wrong.
No, he
She's
can't
not-
multitask.
Yeah, she's
Oh,
not wrong.
yeah, you're
I have to
right.
do it. That's why 5 is my favorite number because I don't have to go any further.
Mhm.
I think this podcast episode is disintegrated into bedlam. So let's wrap it up this way. We have a outreach celebration coming up on September 29th, 3 p.m. at Concord Church. What are we having?
We are having desserts and drink.
Yes,
And what are we going to share?
the gospel.
Well,
and our stories.
and our stories,
And
pictures, videos,
yes,
our pins will be
The
there.
song that you made.
The song I did, I used AI to make a Beyond the Rings song, and it's pretty cool, isn't it?
It is very cool, very catchy.
It is catchy.
I said that it sounds like a VBS song.
It
Somebody
does,
else said that.
it
Maybe you
does.
did.
I didn't say that. But
Whoever said it, I'm like, that's perfect because it's only like 2.5 minutes long,
Yep.
and it's not top 40 quality material, but it's catchy enough to be memorable.
Not even top 100 quality
It's
material.
Hey,
it's-
don't be like that.
Anyway,
I have a song written about me.
It's
now.
right. Our names are in it. Well,
That
so
is
is yours,
true.
but see how much respect you're giving it. So
hey,
there's
I
that,
did.
you know.
You saved the best for last. Her
Well-
name is last in the song.
And you barely hear mine. So
Mhm.
you got to come to the celebration just to hear the song.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So join us on the 29th, and we're working on trying to make it live streamed for those of you who can't be with us in person or in the St. Louis area. And we'd love to have you. We're also going to not only celebrate Paris 24, but we're going to launch Italy 26, and we're going to take a love offering that night. So we look forward to you coming and celebrating with us that night. All right. Thanks for tuning in for another Paris 24, 30 and 30. Until next time.